Gosh. order. Yeah. Everything is on here, right?
And the back. Addition
In the back. The additions are on the back.
Madam Chair, I'll give you a motion for the agenda as presented with additions.
All in favor? Carried. And minutes. Mr. Grover.
A motion to approve the minutes and distribute.
Being none, we'll call all in favor. Carried. Any business arising from minutes? Okay, so we'll move on to our development officers reports.
We are at 20 development permits to date, and last year at this time, we had 9 applications that we were processing, so we're double what we were at this time last year. As far as subdivisions, we are right on par, 4 last year and 4 this year, so we're just keeping up to what began the year last year. Report, we need to go through every item on the report there, but we did, just to bring you up to date, we did meet with the developers for the Alberta Fire Board on site. Rick Green and his planning staff. So he just kind of give us an overview of the site plan that he's going to be bringing into us soon. And also we discussed the public engagement sessions. So he is looking at scheduling them possibly next week. He's working with Evolve Services to set up some type of an engagement that were the whole, like not just those landowners in the vicinity, would be a virtual public engagement.
And that's for the area structure. For that area.
For that subject, yeah, for the area, yeah, and also, straw producers. There's other interested parties that would be interested in engaging in that open house. So we're looking at some ways to reach out to the public. Hopefully we can get something together soon. And I think that's all we have for this month. So unless there's some questions on any items on that report.
Mr. Grover will move the report. All in favor? It's carried. I was just gonna ask Jared, do we have any callers online?
No one's on the line yet.
No one? Okay, so we'll continue on with what we have on in order here.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So we have a development permit application. They're proposing to construct a 2014 square foot detached dwelling on the northwest of 243821. There are 2 existing dwellings and a large farming operation located on the subject property. Pursuant to section 68.2 of the county's land use bylaw, a third dwelling on a parcel of land greater than 80 acres is listed as a discretionary use in the agricultural land use district. An active well site operated by New York Resources is located approximately 400 feet from the proposed location of the new dwelling. Access to the new residential site is proposed from an existing approach off Highway 835. The applicant has submitted a roadside development permit application to Alberta Transportation. Rural addressing signage is required for the new site. And also the landowner is working with the oil company to obtain the minimum setback distance from the well on the property.
Do we have that? What it should be?
We don't at this point.
Mr. Knight?
Madam Chair, I will move this as a discretionary use. I know the individual, he has the approval on the setback from the pipeline, and I just said to him that he should just double check from the wellhead And he said, well, the pipeline is actually closer than the wellhead would be, so he sees no issues. But I told him to double check to do a little bit of cover himself in that situation.
We've also submitted just a request for the setbacks to Alberta energy regulators. So we haven't heard back yet, but they are a little bit behind on their getting their responses out. We should have that information too.
So we have a motion to approve. Any questions? Okay, we'll call it. All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to DP 21011 block 41 block 1 plan 8222364 page 15.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The applicant is proposing to construct a 750 square foot ancillary building on lot 41, block 1, plan 8222364 within the scenic Sam subdivision. The applicant is requesting a 25% variance from 25 feet to 19 feet to the front yard setback. Pursuant to section 23.4B, a maximum variance of 25% of the stated standard may be granted by the Development Authority. The slope grade appears to exceed 15% in the proposed location of the garage. The applicant has engaged Parkland Geotechnical to provide a slope stability assessment report. Sorry about that. Pursuant to section 58.18 of the county's land use bylaw, which states a minimum building setback of 30 meters or 100 feet is required from the crest or bottom of an escarpment, slope, or any other steep slope where the grade exceeds 15% or is suspected of being unstable. In the sole discretion of the Development Authority, a setback greater than 30 meters is required where the escarpment slope is that of a river bank, which is higher than 10 meters. Lesser setbacks will be considered only when the Development Authority is satisfied by the submission of a geotechnical engineering study prepared by a qualified professional that a lesser setback is warranted. The property is located at the intersection of Buffalo Drive and View Place. The proposed location of the ancillary building is within the front yard of the parcel. Section 23.5 of the county's land use bylaw provides the Municipal Planning Commission the discretion to allow a variance to locate an ancillary building in the front yard of a parcel. So we're recommending approval. And Parkland Geo was at the site on Thursday, and he is hoped to have the report by today, but it didn't come in yet. We should have it this week. But I just had a verbal report that there weren't any issues. The only recommendation was that they put, I believe it's deeper setting, or footings rather, for the garage. So he intends to do that. We'll make that a condition once we have the report.
So, Madam Chair, with this, so if we approve it and go forward without the technical report, if they come back with no recommendation, then we're good, right? There's no issues whatsoever. But if they come back with a report, the individual has the opportunity to mitigate it by example of putting this in or putting a berm or doing something, correct?
Yes. Well,
So they would have then, if it would only go if the geotechnical report was adhered to. Is that how we make this work?
yes, it will be, the conditions on the report will be added to the.
Okay.
I will move we approve with conditions.
Mr. Nixon? Is that what you're gonna do?
Exactly.
Okay, because I saw all your 3 hands go up.
He had his hand up too.
Mr. Gunner? Oh, okay. So, see no others, we have motion on the table to approve. All question, all in favor? It's carried. Okay. Now we'll move to DP 21016 lot 1 block 1 plan 0021280 on page 22.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The applicant is proposing to develop a second detached dwelling or manufactured home on Lot 1, Plan 0021280 within the Country Residence Agricultural CRA District. This is a discretionary use within the Country Residence Agricultural District. The proposed development meets all of the setback requirements of the CRA district. Access to the proposed development is by way of two existing approaches on Range Road 19-3. The applicants have not yet purchased a manufactured home, but a condition will be added to the permit requiring that the home be less than 10 years old when placed on the site. In the event that the home they do purchase is older than 10 years, the application will be returned to MPC for further review. The proposed septic system for the manufactured home will likely be a holding tank, although the applicants are still investigating options. A condition has been added to the permit requiring that the trees and stumps be cleared within the road right-of-way along the entire frontage of the property and extending north and south of the existing approaches in order to create a 150-meter site triangle. I did hand out a copy of that map. It wasn't available at the time when we sent the package out. Now, I did speak with the applicant yesterday regarding the clearing of the trees, and they are, he's okay to do the work himself, but he does want to meet with Public Works prior to any trees being cleared. He is concerned that too many trees would be taken out. So we have recently had, just by the matter of discussion, we've recently had several permits that were permitted use permits where a similar condition was added, requiring the clearing of trees and stumps within the 150-meter site triangle. In the beginning, it was required that the applicants do it, that they let us know when it was done, and then Public Works would look at it, and if it met the standards, then we would issue the development permit. And then there was some discussion amongst the ratepayers and administration and some members of council, and Public Works ended up doing the work, or they've signed an agreement that Public Works will add the clearing of trees to their brushing program, and it will get done when it suits Public Works work program. So I suggest that we could use a similar approach if that was MPC's intention. And like I said, the landowner would prefer to do the work himself just because he is concerned that too many trees would be taken out. And then the discussion was made that the tree clearing would have to meet county standards and that the county would have to approve the work before the permit could actually be issued. And he was okay with that. Either way, he's okay with Public Works doing the work, but he wants to be there when it's done.
I think he should do the work. And we do to our standards.
Mr. Gender.
But it is also when I approached them about 2 years ago, because I got driven into his place, and with the trees being right next to the road, and I asked him whether he wanted any trees removed, and he declined at that point. I said the county would remove them, like to whatever it would take, but if he's willing on removing them, but there would have to be a stipulation in there that we go along, that he gets guidance from our Public Works, stating what trees are and must go.
So,
Madam Chair, I'm a little confused about the brushing of this. So would they pay us to do the brushing?
No, that's not what happened in the previous permits.
So the only issue, okay, so no, that's the only question I had. So what's the difference between this and a fence line? If we're gonna, our brushing program or policy has stated that we only do it in the case that it either deteriorates our road or sight line. But this isn't a sight line on one of our properties, this is a sight line on his property, right?
It's the county road.
County road though.
yeah, county road.
On his approach.
Yeah,
So, but, and either or, now, the issue that I have with it is, I've got people that have been waiting for brushing for quite a while. Now, this guy wants it done right now. Does he get popped to the front of the line because of this reason?
And Mr. Clark.
In the other cases, it was line of sight. It's similar to this one. And basically what had to be given at that point is that the applicant for the development permit had to basically sign off that they would allow the line of sight piece to be taken. So I think in a case like this, he's saying he'll do it himself, just because he's worried that cattle come in and clear his 3 acres off.
Yeah.
So, but they do get moved up, James, because it's an issue that's been addressed by the county, eh? It's the whole line of sight piece.
Well, and I get that, but we typically do this on a first come, first served basis. I'm just wondering if it's.
I think the fence, like for fencing and stuff is one thing, but this is more an issue that's been addressed and the county wants access in order to do it. Are you listening? Yeah.
So sightlines are important because school buses pull out and route trucks and construction. It's the worst case scenario. So of course, we're out clearing sightlines, clearing fence lines, and then all of a sudden we're telling a prospective development permit or subdivision that they have to do sightlines and pay for it. It's probably not fair. So also we want to make sure that it's done correctly. And this is the time with the girls going out and doing site inspections and Rick going out and doing site inspections that we can catch the situations that are wrong and need to be corrected. So yeah, when I talked to Rick about these types of developments, if these sight lines were identified, then the brush clearing fence lines get put on hold and the sight lines take priority.
Okay, no, and that's just what I was wondering, and that's all that this I think would be able to be almost done with the skid steer, couldn't it? That's pretty flat land there, isn't it?
Yeah, just a decent
Depends how big the trees are.
Have Mr. Nixon next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe if I heard Kara correctly, she did warn the person that he might have to take his place in line. I believe that's what you said, Kara. So, you know, if he wants to do it sooner, he would be doing it himself, so.
And if I could, Madam Chair, also, so what I understand is this is one of the conditions, so if he's going to do it himself, or whenever we get to it, his permit isn't complete till this is done. So I guess it does give us some, and that's all, my only concern is that somebody who has been looking for a sight line for 6 months is now pushed to the back because somebody's building a new house. That can be an issue.
Mackenzie? So he can either do the work himself, in which case we would not issue the permit until Rick has said the work is satisfactory. If he chooses to have Public Works to complete the work, then he will sign an agreement saying that he's agreed to the scope of work. It'll get done whenever the county gets there, but it won't hold up the issuance of his permit.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's fair.
Okay. So no other discussion? Mr. Gender made the motion. Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, on to TP 21020, Southwest 343618, page 27.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant is proposing to develop a third detached dwelling on the quarter section. Looking to put a house for his daughter to live in. There is an existing approach into the property that they're going to use. It will be a open discharge that will meet the requirements. They've got lots of land to put it in. They own the full quarter section there. So staff recommendation is to approve it.
Mr. Stewart,
I will move staff recommendation.
any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Now we'll go on to subdivision files, 2021-02, lot 6, block 3, plan 1623-37-2, page 32.
Application is to provide for the second phase of the Erskine East subdivision, which would create 18 fully serviced residential lots, one 1.8 acre MR lot and another 0.5 acre MR lot, and one public utility lot, which is the stormwater management pond. The residential lots are proposed to be rezoned to Hamlet Residential District. Municipal reserve lots will be designated to public service land use district. The layout of the proposed lot is consistent with the Erskine concept plan, which identifies block pattern, street design, setbacks, and density, which all influence the physical character of Erskine, its sense of community and quality of life. The existing grid pattern of Erskine should be maintained in order to keep roads continuous. Grid block patterns with back lanes are proposed, and cul-de-sacs and curved linear streets should be avoided as they restrict circulation, connectivity, and walkability, and prevent the ability to expand. Design guidelines could be developed for lot sizes, setbacks, building size, massing, and landscaping. So the reason we are bringing this forward, as you are sure aware, is for our application to Alberta Environment and Parks to relax the setback from the previous Erskine landfill site. And in order to get some, our application into them, they need an approval from the subdivision authority. So we will be submitting that with the request that they relax the setback to 50 meters is what we're requesting.
Mr. Nyman,
I'll give you a motion.
any discussion? I know we've discussed this a lot in the past, so this is all the details that have come forward today. We've asked for, okay? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, new business. We have the 8-1 on the, is that just continuation? Yeah, Town of Stettler, so it's page 36 plus in our additions, page 3. That's additional.
Yes, the site plan was revised, so the proposal is now for 17 lots.
Okay, so we should turn to page 3 then.
Yes, page 3 in the addition package. So the sketch is there showing the size of the lots and just sending it out for referral. Any comments?
Mr. Stuber.
I'll move that we receive this for information.
With no comments or no comments.
Mr. Gender.
Was there a reason why they went from 25 to 17?
Questions with the town? They're looking at putting multifamily units. So the lots would be like duplexes and triplexes possibly.
No other discussion, we'll call the question, all in favor? Okay. Now 8.2. So we have land use bylaw enforcement measures and proposed subdivision. So we have a discrepancy on that. Which one would you like us to go to?
Page 40.
Page 40, okay. So back to the original, page 40.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've had a proposed subdivision brought forward. It's not an actual application as of yet. It's just for your consideration. But if you look at the aerial photo on page 42 of your package, you can see that the quarter section, there are no parcels. Well, there is one parcel subdivided out, which is the rail line in the middle that runs across, and then the rest of the quarter section is in one parcel, although it is fragmented by that rail line. And so the applicant is looking for some direction as to if he were to consider subdividing that quarter section, the Rural Development Fund contribution is going to be prohibitive to the landowner. And so we're looking for some direction as to whether or not the Municipal Planning Commission would be open to waiving or reducing the rural development fund contribution. There are provisions for that in our fee bylaw, which does allow the CAO to reduce or waive the contribution in specific situations. So it was just open for discussion request. Mr. Stillberg first.
Yeah, I will move that the county waive the rural development fee on this because it is naturally fragmented by not only the railway, but also because, I guess in time the railway could be purchased and put back into the quarter, even though it's got separate titles, but there's the county roadway there too. So between the two, it is a natural fragment that he did not create and can't be changed. So it's, I think, and this is one of the clauses that the waiving of the fee would be appropriate.
Will you zoom out on that? Is there any way of-
Yeah, I know that I am a bit.
Okay, well, zooming out, we'll have Mr. Clark.
Well, just, is that on a boundary or like why the need of the 22 acres? Like, is it,
Railway cuts 22 acres off the quarter.
okay, is he looking at subdivision, as you look at that aerial, is it where that black line is? Or what's he want to subdivide?
Oh, sorry, he's looking at doing a subdivision along the railway, like where that natural fragmentation is.
On the south side?
On the south end.
Okay.
Where there's nothing.
So would it even, isn't it a natural subdivision already?
That's what they're asking.
Well, yes, no, right, it fragments the parcel, but it is actually all one land title right now.
So he wants two titles.
Okay, no, I was looking, because I was looking at the buildings, I guess it's this shelter belt that looks so dark there or something, but I was thinking they were drawing a line like that and trying to figure out.
That's a row of trees.
Yeah, no, that would be a different
Yeah,
application.
yeah, okay. Clear.
We made a couple decisions on those. There's one just west of Erskine and also west of Nevis that you decided natural, that it can be divided on.
So that's, you made the motion. So I'll call the question, all in favor? Carried. James, did you have your hand up? Okay. Okay, it's carried. 8.3 gravel pit activity plans on page 43.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So for the last many years, all of our gravel pit development permits have had a condition in which an annual activity plan should be submitted, must be submitted to the County of Settler for review. We've never enforced that condition until this year. And so I sent a letter to all of the gravel pit operators with a deadline of February 12th for submitting activity plans. We did get 4 of the 7 permits did submit activity plans, and since the publication of the MPC agenda, we got an additional one. So we're still looking at 2 applications that did not come forward with activity plans. One of them being James Marshall Trucking, where their application is due for renewal, will be coming forward in a couple of months anyways. And the second one being Starland Farms did not respond in any way.
Starland Farms, that right?
It is. So we're just looking for some direction as to whether we initiate enforcement activities or if we let it ride. Mr. Grover.
Starland Farms, they produce, what, they got 2,000, they have 2,000 yards in a pile down there on that land they bought, and they're just using it for their own use, but they have to go through all the hoops the same as a public entity.
Yeah, they do have a development permit and they ran the same.
They'll be getting a hold of you tomorrow then, and getting it.
Mr. Gender.
I find that the time when the letter was sent out and to be replied to was kind of on the shorter side. So like whether we be a little bit more lenient again for another month or so, and then it's time to rattle the chain on them.
Mr. Nyberg.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, I don't think it was that short a time because we almost got 90% compliance. I'm really concerned that only two individuals that didn't get back to us everybody else found the time. It seems to me, when you put something of importance on top of someone's desk, how important is how quickly it gets done. If they don't feel that it's that important because they're thumbing their nose at you, it doesn't get done. So I'm of the opinion that I'm not so sure we need to go with enforcement, but it should be a very much noted that the mitigating factor of a new permit coming in might have a fact that we have non-compliance from you in the past. I.e. if Starland Farms, I don't know when their permit comes due.
I would have to, it can't be on.
So if you want another permit, you better well do what the first permit said. That's my opinion.
Ms. McKenzie.
I just wanted to clarify, I misspoke. James Marshall Trucking has submitted their activity plan. That was the one that came in yesterday. It was North Star Trucking that is, has one outstanding. And I believe that is most likely an oversight because they did submit one, but they forgot the other. So
Send them a letter and rattle their chain.
Mr. Nixon, do you have any hand up? Mr. Grover?
So it's not,
Just North Star Trucking that has it out now, James Martin Trucking,
that's correct.
and he put one in for one pit already.
He did, yeah.
Starland and County Police Department.
I think a quick phone call and just reminding both applicants that they need to do it.
Is this,
I think we
Mr. Clark?
I just have a question on the pit that wasn't sent in. Is it one for reclamation from North Star? Because he had phoned me, I had brought that into the office and asked the question about, and we were supposed to get back to him on that, so
So it's your fault.
it would be my fault, I guess.
I'll take the blame for
It
Starland too.
actually, there may be going to go around, because yes, they do have an application, one for reclamation. And they were holding off on bringing an application until we amended the land use bylaw, last month, so if that may be.
Yeah, that could be the issue, because that's what was requested, so.
50 floggings out back.
Yeah.
Both you and Dave, that's it.
I'll take a little blame for that too, because they were done that pit. And he said, do we have to haul it down to the dairy barn that's down by Rumsey? Or what he said, well, I said, that doesn't make no sense, why when you haul it when you need it? But he will get a hold of you, Big Pete from Starland, will get a hold of you. Thank you.
Mr. Jenner?
So if these two would have been able to phone first to, if James, the other James would have been short, James would be called.
Yes, absolutely. I'll make a motion.
I make a motion
to
to
receive for information. You've got direction, you're good.
It sounds like you got most of them, and they should all be in by.
Oh, Brian.
Okay. Call the question, all in favor?
Mr. Gender, he's not, neither am I ratepayer, nor is he in my area, so there's two individuals over there that have to make the phone call.
Moving on. Proposed subdivision Northwest 213519, page 44.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is another one where there is a unsubdivided quarter section that is fragmented by the road that's running through. There is a map on page 46, the aerial photo. So the landowner, I believe they've recently inherited this property and they are looking at maybe subdividing it. And what they're finding is that there are some difficulties with grazing it because there are no cattle guards on the road. And so having water on one portion of the quarter section and not on the south portion, and moving cattle one way across the road is causing some difficulties. So they were interested in subdividing. But if you look closely at this quarter section, you'll notice that the road allowances go all the way around it. So there would be, if they were to subdivide, there would be a condition for road widening along 4 separate road allowances. As well as the contribution to the Rural Development Fund would be quite high because the portion south of the road, I believe, is 53 acres. So you would be looking at a Rural Development Fund contribution of $53,000.
Could always do the top part and it would be like $80,000. They didn't want to go that route.
Well, yeah, I didn't give them the option, I guess.
Grover. Mr. Grover.
Yeah, this is my area. We had to look at this when we were talking about contributing for the road use agreement. The road going south goes to nowhere. It goes to a dead end. And it was only, that county rebuilt the first 500 yards of it because it used to go through a private person's there, and then they kept locking everybody out, including the oil company that had a permit on the road to use it. So we did that. Other than that, it's goat trail from there south. And then it goes to a dead end about 2 miles farther south. I don't know, do you want to take, there's no houses down there. You want to take rail development off of that? No. Road use agreement. The other one maybe. I don't know. But we subdivided. We subdivided a half section up north, and yeah, amalgamated the other quarter together and all that. But we had one parcel that was cut out and was, what was that, 60-some acres. We never took a penny on it, so I don't know. Maybe the rules are different for north of town than they are south of town. I don't know.
Well,
Mr. Nyberg
as you know,
and Mr. Nyberg.
So the road that actually goes through there, was that donated road to that?
I think so. I think it.
We didn't purchase it though.
Probably,
How much did we purchase the land from? For?
we have to go back and look at it, it's road fund's pretty old.
Well, I did go through the land file. I couldn't find an actual agreement, but there was a letter saying, here's the check for $78.
Okay, so the guy's gonna give you back the $78 if you don't charge him $80.
Well, and I, in all fairness, you try to be, right, what's equitable along the way. Like I mean, if we're gonna do the bottom portion, if they, that top of the road going through there, do we already own half of that, or how does that work as road allowance?
We own that road.
So it's 99? So, if the portion that we subdivide on the bottom, we take, the right of way on, and I'm gonna say that that's the west side, and then along the top, I don't know. There has to be some sort of compromise. I'm not saying that it's all there, but if we would have purchased that land for nothing, they donated it, I would say, it's a gimme.
I thought that they gave that road to him when they put it through there, but I might have been wrong.
Mackenzie? So the second half of the question is, because it's such a large parcel, the cost of surveying it, the landowner felt that would also be prohibitive. So he asked if we could do a descriptive plan, which you can in the case of a large parcel, which is significantly more affordable than a survey plan. But if we require road widening, then we need the survey plan, and descriptive plan is no longer an option, so.
Well, I think probably the original landowner was in good faith to put that road across there. Yeah. And now I think, I myself think if we want the widening, we look at what road we might widen down there. Apparently, there's a reason we took the route that we took. So if we're looking at widening there, if we're gonna ask for widening on something, I don't know if you could still do it with a descriptive plan or not, but if you couldn't, then it would be that they would have to supply the survey for that portion, but not all the roadways.
They're never moving that road. They're never moving it. It's built to where it's got a bit of twist to it and stuff, but it's built probably where the easiest place to build a road is. And if you built that straight as an arrow, oh my God, you'd have millions of dollars worth of dirt in them.
I never say never, but I see 40-2 that's gonna maybe be built. There's a lot of deep water in there, so.
I have Mr. Nixon,
Oh,
yeah.
what's the, and he's just looking to see what we thought about this before they made any movement, is that correct?
That's right. There's no application at this time. We were just looking at what it would cost to do it. And when I pointed out all these things, he said, is there a way around that?
So does he want to, annex or amalgamate or whatever, that quarter, part with the bottom quarter?
Well, I don't know if they've made a decision exactly what they were doing. I think they were mostly just kicking tires at this point, but the thought process, I think is what he's going for, is that they would subdivide following the road allowance, and then sell the south portion to a neighboring landowner to the south,
Okay,
and
so
then,
I thought maybe they don't own the land right to the south.
Yes, they do. Do they not? Yes.
Well, they could do a border or boundary adjustment or something, couldn't they, as, include that little piece if they own the land below it?
Do a subdivision consolidation.
Yeah, and it would still be subdivision, I guess, so they would be subject to maybe road widening and also to, the rural development fund, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work.
Mr. Grover?
We've done-
No, I think we did an amalgamation on the Fox Quarter section north of town. We just amalgamated it because they wanted all the farmland.
Just you're staying, still staying in farmland, that's not a house that's on there, that's an oil well. So if he wants to, he could put, why would he not be able to put that parcel there in with the south part?
he'd still have to subdivide it from the north portion.
He owns both though.
Right now, they're all on one title.
Oh, I see. But we did in that, for instance, there, we went sideways across 2/4 and did it. So why couldn't you put this parcel with the south parcel?
I believe that there was a subdivision application in that one as well. Was there not, Jacinta?
That would be, you could consolidate the landowner to the south. You could just consolidate that
It's
portion.
consolidated
On the
with the
south
land they
side of
already
the-
owned at the south, yes.
Doesn't that still have to be subdivided from the north?
Yeah, you still need to have a subdivision consolidation, is what it is. The same process, but it's consolidated. Just creates a larger parcel.
And we've already done it once.
Yes,
twice,
we've done it
3,
multiple
4
times. Yeah.
I would run that by him and get him to bring it back.
But I think we have to give them direction. Are we gonna take rural development fund on it? Cause at $55,000, it makes no sense for this gentleman.
Well,
to
it
take
makes sense if we didn't do it. I would challenge that in a court of law because if we didn't do it up north, we consolidated the north half of that Fox Quarter and put it with the other one just so it would be one package of farmland. And that's exactly what this is, into the other quarter. So we can't take $55,000 for this and nothing for the one up north.
I'm not saying that, and the idea though is there was, I mean, that all stayed it never did change that.
No, it all stayed in the same hands anyhow. This land is all in the same hands right now, but it is an estate.
But that would be the owner's choice to take that 53 acres out, if that's what they wanted to do then.
If they wanted to subdivide it and then consolidate it with the southern border.
I think we should postpone this till next time and you meet with them and give them that.
We would like to give them some direction. That's what staff's asking.
Give them the
I
option.
think, Mr. Grover.
I have Mr. Stillberg next.
Well, then my way of thinking, I would suggest that in the view of amalgamation, that there wouldn't be a rural development fee, because the rural development fee is to stop tiny fragments of land being shattered out of the agriculture community, and that is not doing that. It's putting it into the other piece to make it larger. So I think rural development fee probably should be waived if it's amalgamated.
We have Mr. Nixon next.
And I was just gonna ask, if
The land would still have to be surveyed then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but it could be a descriptive plan if you don't, that's what Carrot was explaining aside. But if we take road widening, then it has to be a road plan that's registered and surveyed out. If you're asking for land dedication for future road widening, then they would need to provide a survey to register the road plan.
I guess it's, I think we should have something there, you know, like if, in looking down the road, if they want to sell land, then somebody's gonna have to, it's gonna have to be surveyed then one or the other, and the cost might be the same, it might even be less for the owner to do it now, if they were to, for example, consolidate and survey that and allow for road widening. All it would be a caveat, I guess, at this time, with all we need, and then everything would, at least we'd have a plan there that would be not drawn on paper. So
Have Mr. Oh, you.
Will you go ahead and take?
Yeah, Mr. Grover, then.
Mr. Clark.
I would like to give them the option to amalgamate it with the other quarter and not survey, what was the other one you said there is?
Legal description.
Yeah,
I mean,
do that, it's way cheaper.
yeah, not a legal description.
And take your road widening along the north one, but that south, west one, there's no sense in that road, the road's going to nowhere and it won't for 50 years. Give them that option that they might not want that option. And then bring it back to the next MPC. Thank you.
They may want the option of, if you're willing to waive the rural development fund, then the survey cost may just be something that he's willing to accept, right? So it was just a question that he asked, is if we would accept a descriptive plan. And if the answer is no, we won't accept a descriptive plan, but we will waive the rural development fund, he may be satisfied with that as well. I mean, he would prefer probably both.
Yeah.
Mr. Jennings.
I find this is another one that's naturally subdivided. He should not have to pay into the rural development fund. I just find that I would look at, say, like with road widening along the original road that there's there, at least so that we've got option anytime.
Mr. Clark.
I guess it is one that we are kind of discussing on the future of surveying costs regarding, say, like the cost of, say, like the roadway. But it's something that we've got on upcoming, so in the hang talk to see how we come up with that policy.
That policy might not come to fruition for a while.
Mr. Clark?
Well, it's just with the 53 acre, even if it stayed as a 53 acre parcel, but was subdivided by the other road. You know, it had that natural subdivision, that's still definitely an agriculture parcel. So, I don't know why we would be different than what we did in the past as far as rural development went. I don't think it should be affected by rural development. And then if that was the case, if they wanted to leave it as that portion of a quarter, I think then with the widening and this, you'd have the survey done and as part of their cost for their subdivision. But the rural development fund, it's too big, it's a big parcel.
Mr. Nyberg.
So I think, Madam Chair, you should probably take a straw poll to give the administration direction. But I'm with Mr. Clark, if we waive the rural development fund, you know, the top portion, of that 55 acres along the roadway and the side portion, take that as a road widening, I'm in favor of that if they decide to do it. Realistically, I think it's a reasonable compromise in that sense. And then, like you said, if they want to consolidate, that's their business. They either got a 55 acre separate title, or if they want to consolidate, and we still have our road widening along both sides.
Okay, so the suggestion is do not charge the rural development funding, but do take the road right away.
Just on the 55. That's what you thought, Mr. Clark?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the roadway, just on the developer, on the south portion of the
Yeah.
road, developer.
And is it the west side there?
West side, yep.
Yeah, just so.
Right, okay, yeah, just on the developer, ones, it's not the undeveloped.
Okay, Mr. Grover.
I'll make
A motion. To leave it in farmland.
I think we're
I think we're just doing a straw poll
I mean,
because he hasn't officially applied. Okay, Les, you're Wayne.
yeah, and I'm just thinking, if it was my land, I would think I'd want something definite like a survey, but yeah, I'm in.
You're in.
I mean, and feel like in time, if he doesn't have a buyer for one or the other, it can then be subdivided at that time, and that's one separated out.
Well, for the deal, we're gonna do that anyway.
It'll be subdivided now, or
It's gonna be subdivided and we're gonna take a road allowance just on the 55 acres.
Further subdividing.
Yeah, it could be further subdivided in the future, but then he doesn't have to pay road allowance but if it does, he'd pay road development fund, of course.
So it looks like everyone's in favor of doing that.
So that gives administration, you're clear? Okay.
Good, we'll move on to 8.5, unpermitted stockpile, Southwest 35, 34, 16, that's page 47.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Planning Services has recently been made aware of a potential sand, gravel, and surface mineral development on the southwest of 35-34-16 west of the 4th. A site inspection was conducted on March 10th. Development officers did not enter the property and all observations were made from the road allowance. Several small stockpiles and a gravel truck were present on the property. Based on the snow cover, there were no obvious signs of recent activity on the site. From the vantage point on the road allowance, development officers were not able to determine if the stockpiles had been mined from the site or if they had been brought in from elsewhere. There was no excavation or processing equipment on site at the time of inspection. Both sand, gravel, surface mineral extraction, and sand, gravel, and surface mineral processing are discretionary uses in the agricultural district. To date, Planning Services has not received an application for any operation on the property. Planning Services is seeking direction from the Municipal Planning Commission as to initiating enforcement activities on this property.
Mr. Stuhlberg.
Yeah, this
It
is,
isn't in my area. I drove by it and I actually phoned the owner. And what he did is he scraped some of the material off the rail bed that was there, because he owns the rail bed. And he piled it and then he's hauling it into his feedlot. So, basically he's done. He's just, and he didn't realize that it required a permit to move that material to his farm. And so I don't know what there is to really enforce, because it's piled and it's ready to go to the farm now that it's done.
Is there an application for reclamation?
Mr. Clark.
That area, that's what happened with the rail line, it was just turned back to the landowners.
You could purchase some, that one was actually purchased. He purchased it back, yeah. And, well, you can't really tell by the pitch, you can't see the rail line, but to the right of the piles is, I can see the rail line when you're driving. Just somehow, I guess the way the lay of the land is, it gets hidden, but it's right, that's right up on, pretty much on the rail line. So that's all there is to haul to the farm.
Mr. Nyberg.
Madam Chair, I'll receive this for information or what timeline does he think he's going to?
Well, he did mention when they clean the feedlot, they always make big holes and then they'll place it in. Like I think they've placed some of it obviously, and then the last of it will be placed in. It's usually done in a really good time.
Like it'll be done by the end of the year?
Oh, yeah, it'll be early summer, I'm sure, or late summer at the latest, so.
Receive for information if planning department wants to follow up in 6 months or something, that's your discretion. If you feel that this is something you want to do, bring it back. But receive for information.
Call the question, all in favor? So we'll go to the back of the page for addition package. 8.2 land use bylaw enforcement measures. Page 7.
At the committee of the whole meeting held on Monday, we had discussed alternative options for compliance, for monitoring compliance and enforcement measures. So we've just compiled the proposal and I can just read through it. So I guess I'll read through the whole section of the bylaw that's applicable right now too, so we can look at amending that. So section 76.3 of the bylaw, if a recreational vehicle is listed as a permitted or discretionary use in a specific land use district, the development authority may issue a development permit to provide for the use of a recreational vehicle for the length of time described in the bylaw. So for 2 years or 5 years, and some subdivisions, there's no expiry date. In order to monitor the temporary use of recreational vehicles within the Buffalo Lake subdivision, a tag permitting system could facilitate the issuance and monitoring of a temporary permit for the specified periods pursuant to section 76.2 of the bylaw. A temporary permit would be required for a limit of 2 recreational vehicles for a 21-day period, after which time the recreational vehicle would need to be removed from the property for 5 consecutive days. The use of a third or additional recreational vehicle would also be required to apply for a temporary permit for a maximum of 5 days. A processing fee of $25 would be applicable for all temporary permits. The applicant will be required to complete the attached application form. Upon receiving the form and the $25 application fee, the temporary colored coded tag will be issued for display in a visible location from the street for monitoring processes. I guess the objective of this is to have some type of a monitoring system where we can be aware of the additional units and the time that they're placed on the site with an expiry date. And then also an applicable fee of $25 would be applied. And further to that, there's also the current method that we use for non-compliance is a series of notifications, starting with a letter just making the landowner aware of the non-compliance, and then a stop order if the property isn't brought into compliance, followed by a court order. So the alternatives to that, our land use bylaw does provide, the provisions are listed for issuing of fines. That's something we had discussed as well. The enforcement measures that we use now is tedious and ineffective, as remediation measures can be spread out over a long period, especially during the summer months, when non-compliance issues are more prominent. So the impositions of fines would be an alternative option that we would impose. And a minimum fine is $300 up to a maximum of $10,000. Just looking. And then on page 9, there's an example of the application that would be required to obtain the temporary tag. And these are just temporary templates that were made up last year for put that processing in place, but we didn't, we had a few that had actually contacted us for these temporary tags, but we would look at having it more in use this year so that we can monitor those additional units, the time period that they're on the site.
Oh, Mr. Nyman.
Madam Chair, so in that discussion, if remember, were we thinking of tagging every, even if they already currently have a trailer, were we thinking of giving them a tag anyways? And the only reason that I would think of if they have a permanent, like a 5-year permitted trailer, for the ease of our enforcement, if everybody had a tag and you had that tag for your permanent one, our people can go in and check it and say, yeah, they're good. We don't have to always go back to the planning department to make sure that it's there. Or that person could show the tag, whatever the case may be, right? So, and that would cover everywhere that we have an RV bylaw.
We had discussed like the permanent recreational vehicles, like the 2-year, 5-year, and in Buffalo Sands, there's no expiry date on that. But that would be something that would be useful as well, because 2 years, we have to every 2 years, well, we have to continuously monitor the expiry date on those recreational vehicles. So if we had some type of permitting system where we could enter the permit and it would automatically give us all the permits that are coming up for expiry, it would facilitate that, yeah, very much.
I'm in
For sure.
I'm in favor of tagging everything, and anybody that doesn't have a tag, and the ones that are already there, that are existing and have proper permits right now, we will issue you a tag. You still have to fill this out and the whole 9 yards, but we will issue you a tag. And then you've got the tag, and that makes our enforcement a lot easier. It's a KISS principle in my opinion. Everybody's got a wristband when they go into the party.
Is that for free if you already are allowed
Yeah,
that?
they're a permanent,
They don't need that
their development permit, right?
Yeah, $100 for if like when if it's discretionary use, it's $200, so that permit would be valid for 2 years or 5 years, depending on the land use district.
But they don't have to pay for the tag on top of it.
No, if it's for 28 days, they're only bringing their RV in for 28 days, like in scenic sands, they could still bring our recreational vehicle for 28 days, then we would charge the 25 because it's just temporary. And even in any other district, it's just temporary use, then we would need to still charge the $25, from my understanding.
And but with that, if you bring it in for 20, right now, currently, if you bring it in for 28 days, how much does it cost you?
There is no cost
See,
and no
that's-
permit required.
You see, and that's what we gotta change. This to me is a good fix.
Mr. Stewart.
And I think on the long-term permits, like if you could use a color coding tag system too, that would make it simpler for the enforcers.
Mr. Nixon.
Yes, I definitely think this is a good way to start things out, and we gotta remember that we have to think of the interest of the people who have houses there, the permanent residents, or at least the permanent summer residents, and that don't want it to become a trailer park, I guess, so, but at the same time, we don't want to pour water on the people who want to spend a weekend out there either, so I think this is a pretty good compromise.
Where, did you grab the fines from our bylaws? I just want to know where these numbers came up with.
Pardon?
Government Act.
Well, in our fee bylaw right now.
That's what we
It's already, that's what I was just asking, if where those came from. Mr. Nixon?
I'm sure, through the Senate, do we need a motion to give first reading or to amend the
Take it to council.
land use bylaw somehow?
Yes, the land use bylaw would need to be amended, and we could bring that forward at the next council meeting in April. Or,
Okay, so a motion to bring this forward to council for first reading, sort of thing? I would do that, Madam Chair.
Second and third too.
Mr. Grover?
Well, I just wondered, like, so, okay, you're gonna give an orange tag to the ones that are permanent, they can stay there for 5 years, 3 years, whatever, are there, those orange tags, are they gonna have a number on them?
They'll have a permit attached to them.
But
A number of permit.
If you have are they gonna have a number like 1, 2, 5, 7, or 8? Okay.
Andrew, sorry,
Yeah, Ms. Lauderman?
Andrew had mentioned that he could set up a permitting system, something similar to what we have for fire permits. So he had mentioned that last year, so I'm hoping that we can develop some type of system where it's the numbers automatically generated and it's a continuous system. So, we also have the sequence that they were issued. It would be useful on many levels, really. So.
Okay, so Mr. Nixon, you have the motion to take it to council for first reading for a change in bylaw, right? Just to get that right. Okay. We'll call the question if there's no other discussion, okay? All in favor? It's carried. Now, 8.3 Heritage Hill subdivision 19 and 1841. Just all those numbers.
It's in the same package, yes. It's on page, the map is on page 12. The map's on page 12, yeah. So we don't have an application with this one either, but we just have some consultation on how we can proceed with subdividing or consolidating portions of the 6 quarter sections on section 19 and a portion of section 18, 4117. So the issue with this separating some of, because right now the same landowner owns all of the 6 parcels. But when we start subdividing, we need to have access, direct access to a road or lawful means of access. And that's satisfactory to the subdivision authority. So easements are possible if there is a road, a primary road to take access from. And this is part 2 of the Municipal Government Act, which requires that as a condition of subdivision. So just if you want to go to the map, Jared, you see that red portion or shaded area, kind of a triangle? Maybe you could zoom in.
No, just the top.
Just down, there you go.
There you are. You got her there.
Original proposal was to come off of an undeveloped road allowance and have a private easement agreement between the landowners on the, and I don't have the range road there. Just on that, where you, to get access to that triangle shape, you can see how there's no developed road allowance there. It's just a road across the private land. And then the undeveloped road allowance is just to the east. And that is how they get in now during the summer months. But when you own all of the land, that is an issue. But when we're starting to subdivide portions of it, it does create an issue. So what I had recommended that they could address that issue by consolidating the south portion under that triangle shaded area with, there's a south quarter there, and then the quarter further south of that, which has access off of the primary road, 41-4. Just drop it down a little bit, Jared, you can see the road there, right? That road that runs east and west. So that would be access into the two consolidated quarter sections and that other portion just north of, which is a coulee bank. And that's why they were wondering if, in order to survey that, it would be very difficult because of the coulee. So they would give a legal description for those two quarter sections and consolidate that other portion north. And then the balance on the north of that shaded area.
I'm sorry, and I apologize, but I'll be honest, I'm 100% lost here. I really,
Maybe I'll go up to.
yeah, if you could, I apologize, because what I'm getting and what's being put down, I'm not picking up.
Okay, so what they want, they propose to subdivide this up.
Yeah.
So these two parcels technically have no access, this one and this one. So they were looking at getting, so there is no legal road, but they come across this undeveloped road allowance right now. And then come across here. But that, when you're subdividing, you have to have legal access. So if they come in off of this road, 41-4.
Yeah.
And then they consolidate these two with this would be all one parcel. And if you drop down, this would be another parcel. These two would access off of this. What they're wanting to do is just divide up to 6 quarters. These two are what they're looking at selling.
And how do they get access to those two there?
Well, they own all of the 6, so they can cross borders.
But if they sell those two out, how do they
They
get?
shove those two on the top, how do they get to the bottom ones?
There is access here, right?
Where's-
Access from here.
Does it come all the way down?
They own these 2 quarters, so these would
Yeah.
have to have,
Yeah. But it's gonna be sold, so they won't have access to it anymore.
no,
So then how are they gonna get to the other quarters to send it?
these 2?
Or that south one?
Yeah, up higher, one up higher.
This
Is
is
it
the
a real
road.
road or is it just a?
No, it's-
a line?
South of
Well,
there's
I
the
just
road.
made that, but that's the 6 quarters that they're considering.
But it's not a real road, right?
No,
Not a real road.
so this road, yeah, this one is still gonna be, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've been looking at options for them. I had suggested these could probably have access from here and keep those together and these together.
Well, they don't own those two. Do they?
Well, this is a separate, they own these, yeah. The separate-
So they own more than 6 quarters then?
Well, they own these, there's a separate name on this one right now, but it's basically the same. This is in
It's
the
the same
company
people.
name. Yeah. So this would be one.
Could we get access to that triangle? Because that's a natural creek, ravine. How
That's
could
that
they get to
ravine.
that-
Ravine.
How could they even get to that triangle from the south?
Well, here, there's a primary road here. You don't have to have,
You don't have. to
vehicle
have-
access, as long as there's physical, you can walk
across the creek.
Can that bite us in the butt event later on though? Because could somebody come back later on and say, we don't have physical access to that because the creek is separating it?
Then you're gonna have to go and build a multi-million-dollar road across it.
It's that, I guess we're on train, right? Okay.
So you should be talking into a mic is what we're saying.
Well, no, but I'm just,
I know.
I'm trying to think that, isn't it that, that coulee where, what do we call that, low-level crossing? Isn't that the site that they're looking to subdivide?
No,
No?
oh, I don't know what one they're gonna subdivide, but that, the road there goes down, so the low-level creek is right on Randy Jones' land, so. And because of the, whatever, agreement, I guess, that road is not
Awesome.
accessible to everyone. So basically, the only way to get to that is around in from the north side.
So what if they amalgamate it all? So they own this border too?
Well, it's in a separate, it's private owned, but
Right,
private
okay.
company.
But this here, why don't, okay, they're gonna sell this half section here, why don't you make them take, why wouldn't you have that as one field? They can access it from the north, and the same with this one, have it as all as one, and they got access from the north then. Right?
Yeah.
Then they could go to that, then south, right down into here, and then from there south would go to this one, and this one would come off of up here again.
You can't
Nobody
get,
has to cross the creek then.
you can't get to that road
Can't get to that roadway?
from the south without an agreement.
Oh,
Because the old road goes down there about a quarter mile, and it goes to the east and down over Low Crossing into Randy Jones' land.
Yeah, the original, what they proposed was to subdivide this quarter section and just have this consolidated with this parcel and not touch this one. Just have this, but then there was no access. So, yeah, and then to take this off and just come in from this, undeveloped road allowance isn't really an option unless we have access to it. So they would have to consolidate this to the north.
That undeveloped road allowance is not at all ever buildable. Looks like it goes through the middle of a slough anyway.
It's pretty much bush. If you want to go through there, you go up the Hutterites.
I do remember that
We have had access issues up there before.
Yeah.
It's to do with the low level crossing. But I don't know, it's kind of a dog's.
There's no guarantee that half section that they're going to sell will sell as one parcel. It could go to two different people, and then the quarter on the south, yeah, he's got no access and he'll be screaming, right?
I'm not too sure which quarters, but two of those are rented now, go to a farmer.
So if they sold that half section, the quarter to the south of that half section is split in half, no, one down, Jared. That one's split in half by the creek. How would you get to the north half of that quarter?
walk,
Yeah,
horse.
not buggy though.
It's very challenging to.
That's quite steep there.
Because the only trail, when you cross the little creek there, the bridge, the only trail goes way to the east and then up onto the next field. So it's, you're really, and then there's no trail from that into the next quarter either.
So they want on that shaded subdivision for, like put a cabin or something in it, or on that creek bank?
Probably a house and 10 kids and.
Is it,
It's just to divide the parcels up into, between the owners. We're gonna both retain portions of it.
What's the shaded section there? Is that,
It's what they were proposing to subdivide off of that 19.
okay, because he has a little cabin up in there someplace, and maybe that's where it's at.
There is you can tell just there's just a trail, just at the top of that red line. There's a
Okay.
trail in there. But yeah, there is a small cabin in there.
Is he looking at amalgamating that triangle with the quarter to the south?
But then there's no access, that's why.
The only reason I could possibly see that, that's very rugged land up there, and where he's drawing the kind of the diagonal line there. I was looking at that, I'd be looking at putting that on high ground, so that you could properly fence it, because where the south boundary of it is that quarters, I'll have to say it's gonna be damn near next to impossible to really fence that. I could see that possibly being a reason why he's looking at subdividing that part and now making it.
Yeah,
I mean, that is not our problem, of whether what he amalgamates or what he subdivides. Our problem is
Access.
Having
access. He could,
And helicopters don't count.
so on the west side, the red line on the west side, is there a road there that comes to the triangle?
no, it's not about going down. It's just, I shouldn't have used red. I guess I should have used another. That was just the area that they were looking at.
So is there any road coming from the north down to that triangle
Just along the very top, it's 41-2.
on his own property?
Well, no, that's a county road at
So there is a trail on the road allowance down to the corner, to that triangle,
the very top.
From the top.
from the top.
From the top.
Now, keep going higher. There's road right there.
Yes.
And then there's a little trail that goes all the way down south,
No, that's a creek.
no, down the red line. There's a trail down there?
No,
There's
Well,
no
how does it
trail.
get to the how does it get to the triangle?
Down the other road. On the east side, down there.
Oh, he comes,
On the Belt Road now.
and is that a road where your red line is?
Yes.
Looks like it goes over in the quarter.
No, it's actually below that, the road. Just go down a little more. Jared, just up, no, down. That's how they come in now, that on about road lines where you just had your point.
Yeah.
Just go down a little bit more.
there.
Looks like there's an oil well there.
Right here, this road, that's a 41-4.
Yeah. So how do they, show me how they get from 41-4 to the triangle?
Well, right now, they come in here, okay, but now what we're.
But no, show me where they're coming in now.
Show
This
me.
is on the road now.
So where's the road to the east? How far back is it?
How far over?
Right here.
There is an actual road developed there. And then he travels along that, and then he continues,
Right here. This is, the owner has that property
Right.
now, so there's access across here,
okay, but further back through that slough, that's undeveloped road allowance too, right?
all through here, yes.
Okay, and you're saying that's a goat trail, Wayne?
Yeah, you can drive with a pickup, but you can't take a machine across there, a tractor with anything behind it, really.
And it looks like it goes right through the bottom of the slough. You must go around it somehow.
Yeah, you do go right through a slough there. There are a couple of low spots for sure.
Oh, so it is travelable through the slough.
I don't remember where we go around or if it's straight. I think it's straight, but mostly goes.
Do we have right of way on that?
Well, here, but this is private land, we would have to have, and then this is really,
That's
developed road.
probably a forced road allowance there, because that's only one mile.
You're waiting, I come to see you.
It's your fault,
I
Wayne.
got a question for you. Just a goat farm and it's over there. That one?
Well, it's a tough one
Right,
Yeah, it's
for the access.
right there.
Right, let's see on sheet. Where?
So do we have any, so on the west side, do we have road allowance?
There's,
Not out, just on developed road now.
But we have,
So yes, we do.
we do, so all along the west side, we have undeveloped road allowance all on the west side.
yeah, it's still correct.
But not on the east side, we gotta go 2 more quarters to the east before we get to a road allowance. There's no undeveloped road allowance down there either.
Got any there?
Yeah,
So let's see the road systems when you scroll down.
Yeah, we should overlay the road system so that we kinda got a better idea. This one's a tough one.
Well, similar to, to the west side, along the Red Deer River, when we get these
Yeah.
quarters that run along the river and, whether you have access to them or not, it's kind of on the whim of the guy in front of you. And, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it.
Works out till he gets fighting.
Yeah,
Great then, right?
yeah, and then, you know, you end up with a lot of hard feelings, a lot of people looking to the county to spend thousands of dollars to try and get access. Are they trying to live on any of it, these parts?
Further south, the 18, west of 18.
And so it's a forced road allowance coming from the east.
That's only 1 mile.
Yeah.
Like, here's
But
that
it's,
little
well,
spot.
okay, it's on the one, no, it's gotta be on the 2 mile, isn't it?
No, it's on one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
On 1 mile, the very top of that would be 2 miles.
Miles, yeah, you're right, yeah. So, but when do we go up and down then? Where's our up and down?
Oh, way over.
From we got it there, and then how far do we go before we get a road allowance going the other way? 1, 2,
4 mile?
no, I see
Oh,
it.
1, 2.
No, because then there's one on the west side, right?
2.5.
Yeah, there's a road on the west side, road allowance on the west side.
But there's a slough just north of the, going up there.
Mhm. I mean, you could come down from the north with a road allowance and build a road all the way down to the bottom. Give them access to everything on the west side. But that's fairly pricey.
They've been accessing it from the west or from the east. But like I said, it's 2 miles before you ever get to the borderline where their lines start.
I mean, ultimately, what would be the best case scenario is build the road to the west and then have a forced road allowance into the middle of that section.
Who's gonna pay for the roads?
I'm not saying that that's the issue. I'm saying the issue, that'd be the best. I didn't say how to pay for it.
I guess I can see why he wants to amalgamate, say like on the west side, the 2 north quarters and the south 2. Then you can have access from either the north or the south through that quarter. Where if you ever subdivide it out and give different owners.
And I have no problem with that if, so the half section on the east side, consolidated so there is never an issue again coming forward. And then they can sell it. But if they sell those 2 as separate parcels, I have a real concern with that. And I could see the west side amalgamating them too and putting that in, and you have access. This access from the south, I can see having that amalgamation there. That makes sense. The problem I have is that little triangle area, having access from the south, not being able to get across the creek bed. Is that our fault or whose fault is that? That's where I'm having concern with.
That'd be the buyer's concern.
Yeah, but they don't seem to care when they come to us and say it's your fault for not giving us access.
But if we can amalgamate it with the south, at least the cattle have access across.
Yeah, but, yeah,
We've had one before, you bet, up by the lake, right? And then, somewhere in the mix, the access got lost. And the person that owned the rest of the land told me they got to fighting with the guy who owned the acreage, and the acreage become worthless because he had no access to it except with an air or a helicopter.
Can't be hesitant to subdivide that triangle off unless they built roads. Unless they built the road to it.
yeah. But they're not wanting to subdivide it off. They want to
Amalgamate.
amalgamate it.
Subdivide it and then amalgamate it, right? And that was just for access.
That was the only reason that, the only way that we could, I thought, could process this application is if they consolidated all the 2 south quarter sections and that little, it's about 34 acres on that 19. But that's why maybe there's other alternatives to that, I don't.
I'm just thinking this is pretty rough terrain, so it's not like you can, if they ever wanted to build a road through there, or if the county had to, this would be a pretty horrendous expense.
You have good material to build with, wouldn't you, Ern?
Force access.
No, but I mean, the dirt would be pretty good to build a road with up there, if you could get it out of the ground.
Yeah, like you're dealing with a lot of very soft around creek. banks are just flat, so they don't really have anything decent.
But that top stuff's gotta be pretty clay, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But the volume that you need to build on there, there's no hills like there is, like down south of the Rough Rounders.
Big one hell of a borrow pit.
Good pond, the creek.
Not legal yet.
Okay, so what is the board thinking?
My head hurts from this one.
Receive it for
Better.
information and.
Well, we can't receive for information. We gotta give them some direction.
Receive it for information and talk to the person to clarify a lot of our questions.
What are our questions?
Yeah, I'm not sure which questions you have.
On how we really want to amalgamate it, what his reasons are for this.
So he wants to subdivide and then amalgamate?
Yeah,
Is that his main purpose?
The original proposal was to take this, this portion here, consolidate it with this one, and then come in on that, on the roll out, and then across here, so that they could have access to here. But this is undeveloped, and this is the private land, and get into this, and then have this, parcel here consolidated with it.
Would they give us a road allowance? I'm not keen on that being a caveat. Forest road. I'd like it to see it as a forest road.
But yeah, it could, they would have to give up some land there.
Through the bottom of that,
For a road to that triangle.
right there, they would have to give us road allowance.
But it's undeveloped,
I get it's undeveloped, but it'd give us it would stay for us as an undeveloped road allowance. If we're not buying dirt off them to give them access, they have to give us that. They have to give us a road down there just on the quarter section.
so registered as a roll back.
But it's undeveloped all the way.
Yeah, all this is,
Yeah.
they come in here and roll across.
But it's still considered a road.
All that does, it gives us access, is what it does. It doesn't say we have to give them highway access, it just has to give them access to it. That would solve a lot of the problem.
66 foot,
Yeah, I would be all right with 66 foot.
at least that'll give you some access.
Yeah,
And then they would be able to access
every portion. That's the simple fix, isn't it, guys?
either
No?
on the north or the south.
I'd like to hear, Sheree, I'd like to hear from our CEO. Just sitting back there watching.
I just worry
You're
about,
gonna have to deal with this.
yeah, I just worry about, you start selling quarters and they all get sold individually. And, somebody looks at this beautiful tree quarter section and thinks, oh, I'm gonna build a greenhouse with it. And they're banging on the door for, how am I gonna get in there? And
If we get that though, that gives us all access to the whole thing.
you're still with undeveloped road allowance and somebody that wants to move out there, they're gonna want it fixed and gravel.
Well, guess what? You want to build it, go ahead.
Yeah, get everybody that's sold a piece of land to be honest when you sell it and say there is no access.
But what would be the alternative though, would be that?
I look at that north and south quarter and I think amalgamate it, but you gotta be careful because we gotta go through the subdivision process to ensure that both titles are amalgamated into one, so that we can't sell one off from the other. Because if they just go to land titles and amalgamate the titles, there's still the two link numbers, which means it's still the two quarters.
And you sell it south one and has no access.
I'm still better off, I still think we're better off getting them to give us the forest road through the bottom of that second.
There's some rich farmer
Quarter.
that wants to buy a block of land.
Yeah.
Ideally, we would all sell together, but they want to retain part and disperse part.
Then you wouldn't have to amalgamate those two west.
Wouldn't have to do any amalgamations, they just give us that right away in between the southeast quarter and the south middle quarter. If they give us a forced right of way through the middle there, we have got access to everywhere there. It's not great access, it's still access. And if somebody wants to build a house on it, pony up, we'll give you some money and you can go to town.
Well, if they give you the forced access road, where do they meet up with? Like, they gotta meet up with a
regular county road. That's
Yeah.
still a mile away, right?
Yeah.
So it's the next guy.
Yeah.
With the half section, are they gonna give us the forest road?
We already have it.
Do we?
They own that. The forest road.
No, that's a road allowance all the way along through the bottom of that slough. Right there is. the
Has to be Forest Road.
Yes. Well, if that's a road allowance, why isn't the road allowance carrying forward to the west?
Because it was a forest road.
Yeah, there's none here.
So what's that to the east of that quarter?
This one is all on about road now.
Like you over there to,
Yeah, it's just,
And then it goes over to,
To the county road where that red line is, right?
yeah, and they get in here now during the summer through this road.
Well, then there should be a road allowance right at the bottom of that quarter. Right at the bottom of those two quarters, might not be the greatest, but there should be a road allowance there.
That's why, if we take that, it's
But
gone.
it's not a road allowance, it's a forest road, because it's only on the mile, so I would double check, to see if it's registered. on the-
Yeah, make sure that you're right, Dave. You're very right on that. Make sure that it is a registered road allowance, and if it is, we just take another,
Half a mile and a little bit.
and none of those roads are gravel. The one from the going west or the mile to the north there, they're not gravel either.
like the guy out at Big Gully, we told him he could bring in a load of gravel and dump it in some of the holes and help get his own access along there.
if it's if there's an actual road allowance to the east, there's, those two quarters have got to have road allowance. I mean, some of these road allowances are straight up and down on the riverbanks, but there should be a 66-foot road allowance there.
But it's forced.
Forest Road,
Yeah, you'll have to check.
and we've got lots of them in the county.
Just continue the forced road. That's what I would say.
It's only on the mile instead of 2 miles.
Till you get here,
Yeah, that's quite a ways, right?
that's a long way.
2 miles. No, it's at the half mile, isn't it?
No,
Right there is where it meets up.
No, I just looked at the county map, so
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 2 miles and a half to the middle of that section.
Is the road east-west there, Sheree, from where he's got the thing, that little hand, is that actual road then?
What about, yeah, north of this, is that a road?
No,
No.
no.
Further here, a lot further east.
Go further east. There you are.
Yeah.
There you got her.
Then you come down three,
East road, east-west, is that a road now?
we gotta come down three, and then there's no.
That's 41-4 at the bottom.
Not till
But it
down,
is
yeah,
road-
right
But
there.
it is road allowance from that point all the way over to the red line.
Yeah.
But why is that where Jared, where that pond is in the middle there, Jared? Why is that line red?
If you look at the map or the satellite map, there's no road.
Like that line running from that forest road allowance to the north is red.
It'd be a road allowance that's just never been developed.
It's just trees on the road.
Madam Chair, what I would propose is that, are they in a hurry to do this?
There, yes.
Well, unfortunately, I'm dealing with two things I would like to see changed. The boundaries be changed to a dotted line. And then the roads, either actual roads, verifiable roads into a red line. And then blue line, any undeveloped road allowances. Because I'll be honest, this is pretty taxing on my little pea brain.
Oh, I thought we were voting on it. I agree with you. I think that they're coming from the east, you gotta come 2.5 miles, and that gets you access to the bar quarter in there, and that's about all you can do. But the only thing is, when you do that, and what will happen, we've had it at Big Valley, Alberta, the one guy owned 7 quarters, and they sold it to everybody in the country, put it up for bid. And somebody from Acme buys a back quarter, never looks at it. It was cheap, so I bought it. But this here, if you give them that access, that doesn't mean we build the road though.
Madam Chair, could we go in camera for a bit?
You making that motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Hey, Wayne, on the west side of the north, is that road allowance accessible for the first half mile?
I don't think so, that's, I'm trying to remember if it was or not, but that was,
So the county is officially over the weekend cabin on developed road. You just can't live
I
permanently.
just wonder if that little creek body that goes across, whether it's gonna be much.
I don't think it goes through that.
I don't think it goes through, but have a look next time I'm through there.
Attached to anything. If it was a chalet, we might think. We're not spending any money.
okay, so where's council want to go? Or
It's
board,
not council,
sorry,
MPC,
board.
but I'd like to make the motion that, we instruct administration to, offer, to this individual the option to give to the county I don't know how registered road plan, is that how you would say it?
Road plan, you'd have to have
A
it
road,
registered.
road plan on the bottom of whatever that quarter section is. And 200 meters into the bottom of whatever that quarter
90.
section is.
Southwest.
Does that make sense, Jacinta?
Yes, and the applicant would pay for the cost of
Yeah.
having it surveyed out, yeah.
So the applicant would pay for the survey of the, giving the right of way of the road.
And it can be a 66-foot roadway, right?
That's what we've always taken, is initially taken.
That's what they all are. That's what we start with.
Okay, so everyone ready? No discussion? See any discussion going on? We'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried.
That was simple.
An hour later, yeah.
Okay. Back over old business, 9.1 NRCB approval. Page 49 on the original package.
I'd like to move that we received for information, Madam Chair.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. And, page 51, G3, our letter of appreciation.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make the comment that that was a phenomenal letter, and are we, with permission of G3, would we be able to put that into our county connection?
You could contact Rory, just want to see if you had any objections.
And just a little blurb saying, you know, how great it was to work with them as well, and how they did, it is a breath of fresh air. If you want to quote from me, working with a developer that has, no.
No, it doesn't develop.
Document, they did, they had their ducks in a row.
Property,
No, and you, Nikki can word something that makes it sound really nice.
I did actually, at our last correspondence, when we had released security, I did thank them for the cooperation in bringing this development to, you know, the successful outcome that it had. So I did kind of already indicate that we appreciated their cooperation and everything that was done.
But
We'll give a formal letter.
I think, I would like to see it because I honestly think this is also compliments to our staff here, that you guys did a phenomenal job working with them, and I think it's important that the rest of the county ratepayers know that we are open for business and good quality business, for sure.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, all in favor? It's carried. Now, 9.3, non-compliance, Southwest 264020, page 53.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this was just an update for you. We had requested a development permit from the landowner in regards to the sand, gravel, and surface mineral extraction happening there. They did submit an application, however, it did not contain all of the information that we needed to really process the application. So I have deemed the application incomplete and requested further information. The deadline for submission is June 30th. For the completion of the application, and then if they submit the requested information, we'll continue processing the application and bring it forward to MPC. If not, we will refuse the application.
Madam Chair, they're fully familiar with what they need to, what is incomplete, is this, it's
Yeah.
just a case that they're not figuring out what we want.
Well, I mean, they sent in the form, and some information, it just doesn't meet their new standards since we've
Oh, okay.
amended the land use bylaw, so I did send them quite a detailed letter.
These individuals are trying, that's what we want to see.
And I did speak with a consulting survey company yesterday, that I suspect was in relation to this development permit, although they didn't mention any names. So I feel like they are trying to comply, but we will find out for sure in June.
Receive your information.
Okay, all in favor? Now we need a motion to go in camera.
I'll take this in the camera.
Okay, Mr. Nyberg, all in favor?
I didn't see it in camera.
You have your
Now I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Nyberg, all in favor? It's carried. You're adjourned.
Meeting April 28th.